Good morning. For the record, my name is Erin Murphy, City Council at Large. I am the chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Public Health, Homelessness and Recovery. I am joined by my colleagues, Councillor Ruthie Louisiane at Large, Council President Ed Flynn, and Councillor Lara. This hearing is being recorded. It is being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-TV and broadcasted on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, FiOS Channel 964. We will be taking public testimony at the end of this hearing. If you are interested in testifying here with us in the chamber, please sign up on the sheet near the door. If you are interested in testifying virtually, please email the Central Staff Liaison, Megan Kavanaugh, for the link at meghan.kavanaugh, KAVANAGH, at boston.gov. Written testimony comments may be sent to the committee at ccc.health@boston.gov and will be made a part of the record and available to all councilors. Today's hearing is on Docket 0882, in order for a hearing to discuss Boston's plan to eradicate youth and young adult homelessness, receive updates on implementation and progress specific to our LGBTQ+ youth. This matter was sponsored by Councillor Lara and Councillor Liz Braden and was referred to the committee on July 13th, 2022. So welcome, and we will be taking the advocate panelists first, so thank you for being here. I will, before I give my opening statements, I am going to read a statement from Chastity Bowick, who sent us an email saying, "Good morning all. After Saturday's horrific event in Colorado Springs, we have had 2 staff members quit due to the fear of their safety. I will be working at our transitional home this morning and will be unable to attend the hearing. Please keep in mind the following. More resources are needed to combat housing and safety for trans and LGBTQ youth and young adults. There are not enough programs, and the ones that do exist, like the Transgender Emergency Fund, is severely underfunded. Transitional homes work, and more funding should be established to fund these programs. Traditional shelters don't work. Most have and do discriminate against the trans and LGBTQ communities, and they do not provide tools for people to become and remain sustainable. Number 2, we are tired of hearing there are no housing funds, yet when migrants appear, the money magically appears. Number 3, too many buildings going up in Boston that low-income people can't afford, or there are only a small percent of units that are low income. And lastly, with the rent increased in Boston but not the minimum wage, how does the city expect one to survive, especially an already marginalized community? Thank you for understanding." I did want to read her comments into the record. I know many of you probably will be talking and lifting up a lot of those same issues. And we have been joined by Councillor Mejia at Large. So thank you all for being here. This is an important hearing to have. Youth homelessness is a serious problem in the United States, and as the Council Chair on Homelessness and also the Chair of the newly formed Special Commission to End Family Homelessness, I do not take this problem lightly. Each year, an estimated 1.6 to 2.8 young people experience a period of homelessness. Of these, about 20% are considered chronically homeless, meaning they've experienced 3 or more episodes of being homeless in the past year. And with my work on the commission and in this space, there's also times we know where families, especially coming out of COVID, many people are what we call couch surfing or doubling up in houses. So many times they're not on any form listed as homeless, but they are not in a stable home. So we have to also remember that. Several factors can contribute to youth homelessness, including family conflict, abuse and neglect, financial instability, and mental health issues. As a result, homeless youth are at increased risk for many adverse outcomes, including mental and physical health problems, substance abuse, and oftentimes, unfortunately, they are involved in the juvenile justice system. Our LGBTQ plus youth are disproportionately represented among the homeless population and often face unique challenges when trying to access shelter and other services. They may be more likely to experience rejection from family members and face discrimination and violence from their peers. Additionally, they may have difficulty finding safe and affirming shelters and may be at greater risk for exploitation and abuse. After Saturday's horrific event in Colorado Springs, it is clear that the LGBTQ plus community has undergone so much bigotry and hatred that it affects almost every part of their lives. Unfortunately, the violence against LGBTQ individuals nationwide directly feeds into the growing fear and hate that we continue to see plague this country. It truly breaks my heart to see such a community under attack. So before I hand it over to the lead sponsor, I would like to just take a moment of silence for the 5 victims of the attack on Club Q in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Thank you. And I will hand it over now to the lead sponsor, Councilor Lara.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to all of the panelists, both from the administration and the community who are here with us today. I'm incredibly grateful that you were still not only willing but able to join us after what I'm sure has been a tough few days for all of you. I think one thing that has become clear, and one thing that we have already known and that I'm sure has been clear to you for a very long time, is that the right-wing conservative transphobic rhetoric is not just that. Is that the rhetoric emboldens and creates real violence that harms real people. And so I hope that, although we know that that physical violence is a system of the systemic violence that we have imposed on queer and trans communities for many, many decades here in this country and in this city, if we're being honest, I hope that today feels like a balm and not a burden to be here and have a conversation and know that you have people who are incredibly, not just supportive of you and the work that you're doing, but in solidarity with you and wanting to see what we can do to make the world, if only a little bit better, for our queer and trans siblings everywhere in the city and across the country. When I decided to host this hearing, it was because in June of this year, during Pride Month, our office has a visionary activity that we do publicly to help us create a policy platform. And that activity is called Letters from the Future, where we have people in a creative prompt write us letters from the future that tell us what the future would look like for their communities if we've solved some of today's most pressing issues. And so in June, our office decided to undergo another Letters from the Future campaign. And this time it was called Letters from the Future Beyond Pride Toward Policy, because we wanted to do more than just celebrate the queer and trans community in the city of Boston, but we wanted to make sure that we were making the systemic changes necessary to make sure that you could live healthy, thriving lives, and that those investments were being made by the city council and the mayor's office. So in our Letters from the Future Beyond Pride survey, as you can imagine, we got a beautiful, beautiful tapestry of stories that came from queer folks from all across the city. And there were 6 clear issues that were identified by people in the city of Boston. One of them was housing for LGBTQ folks. The second one was the overcriminalization of queer communities and their health and well-being while incarcerated. The third was supporting LGBTQ youth in Boston public schools. Protected spaces for community and culture building for queer people in the city of Boston, increasing access to addiction and mental health services for the LGBTQ community, and violence and prevention of discrimination. And so those were the 6 issues that were the most salient for the people here in the city of Boston. My office's intention is to have a hearing on all 6 of those issues. We've already filed 3 of those hearing orders, and to release a report in coming June that would ultimately make recommendations to not only my colleagues on the city council, but to the city of Boston about what you want to see and what you need in the city. And so I'm really excited to be here today to talk about our first hearing, which is LGBTQ housing. Initially, when we filed this hearing, we wanted to talk about youth and young adult homelessness, but after having conversations with so many members of the community, it became very clear that we needed to expand and really explore what access to housing looks like for all different members of the queer community. And so we're going to be talking about youth and young adult homelessness, but we're also going to be talking about reentry housing. We're going to be talking about senior housing and models for senior housing in the city, and also get some questions that I know you brought here about the shelter system and what we can do to create more supportive and transitional housing. There are a lot of creative, transformative models that you have created. As we know, when there's a necessity, there's a sentence that I say often is that when our people can't breathe, we build a new set of lungs. And you have done exactly that. And so I'm really excited to hear from you what you've done. And I will yield my time to my council colleagues for their opening statements, and I look forward to your presentations. Thank you.
Thank you. So yes, we'll have our colleagues do opening statements, and then we'll turn it over to the panelists. Thank you. In order of arrival, Council President Flynn.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to Councilor Lara for the important work you're doing on this issue. Thank you to the panelists for the important work you're doing on this as well. I want to say thank you and to the mayor's team that's here, including Quincy Roberts, who I work closely with. Want to thank them for the important work that they're doing on this important civil rights issue. I also know about and have followed and have talked to the president recently of the Boston Children's Hospital, and I say that because this hospital is probably the finest hospital in the world, but their mission now is being jeopardized because of, unfortunately, bomb threats that are coming in frequently, and it's targeting the doctors and the staff and the children that are working on LGBTQ related medical care. And it shows you what, in my opinion, it shows you what white supremacy has done in this city and in the country, really. But I think what you're doing is you're trying to bring people together to make sure people are treated with respect and dignity. And I just want to acknowledge that and let my colleagues know that I support the programs and opportunities and the housing outreach as well for our LGBTQ residents and especially young people. But I want to acknowledge the work of so many people in this room that are doing wonderful work on this issue. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Council President. Council Louis-Jean.
Thank you, Chair. I want to thank everyone for being here and for this really important discussion. Want to also just acknowledge the time we're in that really creates a lot of fear for a lot of us just to live our daily lives of full self-expression when our safe spaces are being attacked, and when safe spaces for us to really congregate and to enjoy, but also places where you should always feel safe, which is home, and making sure that we are doing everything we can to ensure housing as a human right for everyone, especially for our most vulnerable neighbors. And so I thank all of you for the work that you're doing. I've had the opportunity to work or learn from all of you and the work that you've all been doing. Connor over at Break Time, Leslie at Justice for Housing, and your colleague, and the work that you've been doing and all the doors that you've been opening when they've been closed on you. And so I'm excited for the work that you do and for the work that we've done together and will continue to do. And I'm just so glad that you are a voice here in this city to really advocate for folks who, where they just too often have doors shut on them. And so I thank you for being here. And also, Morgan, for the work that you're doing with Black and Pink. I'm just, it is important that we center your voices as folks who are doing the work every day, and for you to tell us and inform us of the things that are needed That's how it started with, attending events and hearing Chastity speak about the needs of the Trans Emergency Fund and the housing the house that she's at right now in Dorchester that really demands city support and city dollars. And so during ARPA, working with Quincy Roberts and working with the housing department, really working to get a commitment, we tried to get that support for that housing, a $900,000 via the ARPA process. And we had a commitment from the city to support that housing, even if it's not through the ARPA process. And I want to thank everyone from the administration who's here, because we had a meeting up on the 9th floor, and we had that commitment, and Quincy's still doing the work to make sure that we have support for that housing, because we can't just say that we want to make sure that everyone has a roof over their head if we're not doing the work to fund that. Our dollars need to go to support vulnerable folks who have too often been historically excluded, LGBTQ folk, Black and brown folk, disabled folks. And so I'm really excited for this hearing to continue to learn from all of you and to hear about where we need to put our dollars and our resources and how we can show up better for you every day as a city. So thank you for holding us accountable, and I look forward to this partnership. Thank you.
Councilor Mejia.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Councilor Lara for her intentionality and thoughtful policy making, right? Really leading with people and creating space for people to determine for themselves what is needed. So I'm really looking forward to the recommendations that are going to come out as a result of all the hard work that you've been putting into this process. So I just am incredibly inspired by your efforts. And I also wanted to acknowledge that, the administration created a whole department, right? LGBTQ advancement under Quincy's leadership. So that just speaks volumes to what this moment is really all about, and the work that I think that we'll all be able to do together, because it's a whole new world. And I'm incredibly inspired and feeling incredibly hopeful for what is to come, because the only thing that they can take everything away from us, but what they can't take away is hope and faith. And so if we remain grounded in that, right, there's nothing that we can't accomplish. And so I really do think that this moment is about seizing it and being as aggressive as we need to be, and loud and bold. This is not the time for us to shrink away from these issues. It's an opportunity for us to stand up and really show up for folks, right? And so that's what I'm here to do. That's what I've been committed to do my entire life. And I'm so sad that, without showing too much of my age, but 3 decades later, having worked with Bagley and Glass and other organizations in the early 90s, where young people were feeling excluded and uncared for and unloved, and then moving to New York and working at HMI, which is the Hedrick Martin Institute, the home of Harvey Milk School in New York, working with young people and trying to create environments in Harlem, in Brooklyn, and the Bronx for young people to be fully embraced no matter where they live. 3 decades later, we're still having the same conversation. And so that is why this particular strategy that Councilor Lara has put forth, where it is going to really unpack a number of different areas and give us the opportunity to walk away with solid recommendations and working alongside the administration to make things happen, is what gives me hope. And so as we continue to move forward, the signal to have an office dedicated, led again by Quincy, is a step in the direction that should ground us in hope, because that is the only thing we have left. So let's keep building, let's keep moving, and I'm excited to do this work. Thank you.
Thank you. So, panelists, we will, each of you will have 5 minutes to share, and you all have important things to share, so we will just start at this end and go down so you can begin. And just before you, just state your name and your organization before you start to speak. Thank you. What is that? Well, sure. Okay. Councilor Lara is asking, you probably already are accustomed to doing this, but if you wanted to share your pronouns also.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Connor Schoen. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the co-founder and executive director of Break Time. We are a Boston-based nonprofit working to break this cycle of young adult homelessness. I come to this work because when I was in my own process of coming out when I was 19, I was working at a youth shelter in Cambridge called Y to Y and learned that 40% of young people experiencing homelessness identify as LGBTQ+. As I was trying to figure out my own sexuality, I was working with young people who, despite everything that was going on, were so brave and authentic about who they were, and that's what inspired me to come out and be the person I am today. So I owe so much to LGBTQ+ youth experiencing homelessness, and 5 years later, I'm so grateful that I get to do this work each and every day through my leadership at Break Time. I want to talk today a little bit about what the cycle of young adult homelessness means. Councilor Murphy mentioned chronic homelessness, and what we see with a lot of young people experiencing homelessness is that they might be able to get a job for a few weeks, but without the support and stability they need to maintain that job, they never get the financial security that they need to maintain housing. And it sort of creates this cycle of housing insecurity leading to job insecurity, leading to financial insecurity, leading back to housing insecurity. That can create a setup for long-term chronic homelessness. And so what we do at Break Time is that we work to break that cycle by investing in a young person's pathway into the workforce and their foundation of financial security. We recruit from other nonprofits in the city, like Bridge Over Troubled Waters, who are doing incredible work to support young people. Each of our young people goes through a 3-part program. It starts with 3 weeks of workforce readiness training and financial literacy. That happens at our office, which is right over at 170 Portland Street, just an 8-minute walk from here. After those 3 weeks of training, all of our associates or our young people are sent out for 3-month job placements in the community. So what's really cool about our model is based on what a young person's interested in doing, we can create a job placement that aligns with their long-term career interests. So we have young people who are working in tech at small businesses. We have young people working at restaurants. We have young people at frugal bookstores, community servings, all over the city, places where they feel like they're getting a job opportunity that aligns with their interests. Break Time pays our associates $18 an hour during that time. We match any savings they put aside. And we also are continuing to support them with pathway coaching as they're exploring housing. Most of our young people during this time are in some sort of transitional housing that they're actually going to lose if they don't get employed. And so that's why we're actually employing these young people ourselves onto our payroll and having the businesses and nonprofits we work with pay for half that cost, so that it's really a shared investment across our community in making sure that these young people have a pathway into the workforce. Finally, after the job placement, we support young people for 3 years at Break Time. We continue to pay them $100 a month for a year after they graduate, and then $100 a quarter for the following 2 years, totaling $2,000 in financial support. We continue to provide pathway coaching, monthly check-ins, and really work to ensure our young people have a pathway to job security, financial security, and ultimately housing security. In terms of our impact so far, we employed 150 young people so far this year. 83% of our alumni are working and are in school compared to 12% prior to the program. They're seeing wages that are 33% higher, savings that are $1,000 higher, and a 74-point increase in credit scores. So our work is quickly having a tangible impact on the economic reality of these young people's lives. And so what we're asking the City Council to do is in the next operating budget, FY24, we're seeking $500,000 in ARPA funds to support Break Time's work. Specifically, the portion of it that hasn't been and can't be covered by current city funding sources, which is the stable orbit portion, the long-term alumni work. A lot of city funding sources are focused on supporting the job placement or the job training, but that long-term support, unfortunately, under current grants, we're not able to get funding for. So it's a great way to pilot and expand that work, which will also inform how other programs work with their alumni. And it's a great opportunity to use ARPA funds in that really creative way to pilot that and find ways to scale it longer term. We're also asking the city to explore a temporary alternative shelter fund What that is funding for young people to get a hotel bed or Airbnb while they're waiting for a shelter bed. Sometimes young people can be waiting 2-3 weeks to get into a youth shelter bed, and that increases their likelihood of a whole bunch of different things during that time. So we're seeking funding to support that work through both the Office of Housing and the Office of LGBTQ+ Advancement. And finally, we're continuing to advocate that the city, through the Department of Youth Employment and Engagement, bring their Success Link job programming to be year-round and really invest more money per young person in making sure that we're supporting young people all throughout the year, not just during the summer months. The city was able to appropriate $800,000 for that last fiscal year, but none of it was spent. So we really want to make sure and hold the city accountable to ensuring that we're supporting young people all throughout the year with those Success Link dollars and really figure out how we can make sure that that happens and that's implemented. I'm over time, so I'm going to finish there, but look forward to answering any questions folks have.
Thank you very much. Leslie?
Hi. Good morning. Thank you. My name is Leslie Credo. I'm the founder and executive director of Justice for Housing. I'm here because I am formerly incarcerated, and as we know, directly affected individuals face barriers and stigma to attaining stable housing. LGBTQ individuals are 3 times likely to be incarcerated. They make up a high percentage of the incarcerated community. LGBTQ individuals experience homelessness are often at heightened risk of violence, abuse, exploitation compared to cis and heterosexual peers. And they're also discriminated against when seeking shelter. For example, we partnered with the Mass Bail Fund, and we did a bail out, and once the Mass Bail Fund bailed them, we housed them into a sober home, which we paid for in advance. When we drove the individual to the sober home, the landlord refused to let the person reside because it was a trans woman. We had to advocate, threaten, and more to get that person into the sober home. Once they were housed in a sober home, a lot of what they experienced were the other women in the home felt uncomfortable. So these are some of the experiences that LGBTQ trans women experience while trying to be housed. 40% of the homeless youth served by agencies are drop-off centers. 30% are street outreach clients. 20% of justice-involved individuals age out of foster care. What that means is the youth that are in foster care end up aging out, and 30% of them end up in incarceration due to homelessness. Lack of affordable housing and discrimination from housing authorities, also administering vouchers, are another barrier for individuals who are homeless and LGBTQ. Discrimination based on criminal history uses a backdoor for discrimination for LGBTQ people. So landlords discriminate, they use their quarry as an excuse because they're LGBTQ, to put it in layman's terms. They're also represented by the sex offender registry. There are numerous sex workers that are labeled as sex offenders, which should not be. And that is another barrier that we face housing individuals. I just want to talk about a little bit about the legislation that we filed. H4071 is legislation that we filed to provide subsidy vouchers for individuals returning home from incarceration. This bill will serve as a solution to some of the problems that LGBTQ individuals are facing. Also, the policies we created working with Councilor Ruth Z, Senator Miranda, and Rep. El Guado have been effective reversing discriminatory housing policies. I just want to turn it over to Riley, who is our Hands-on Defense Program Manager, who does work on discriminating. That's her job, is to advocate for individuals who are being discriminated against.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Riley Smith. I use they, them pronouns. As Leslie said, I'm the Hands-on Defense Program Manager at Justice for Housing. So Leslie did touch base a lot on kind of the statistical background. And I think one of the things that, we like to bring forward is, as Leslie said, discrimination based on criminal history in housing often is a backdoor way to discriminate against anyone who's part of a marginalized community. And so, when we talk about housing discrimination, we're kind of looking at this huge intersection between over-policing of people of color, of LGBTQ folks, the kind of intersection of housing discrimination, I think I just repeated myself, sorry, and all these kind of areas kind of overlapping. For example, Black trans women are 10 times more likely to be incarcerated than the general public. So again, we're just kind of seeing this kind of stacking of all of our most vulnerable communities. So addressing housing discrimination, specifically by addressing, discrimination based on criminal records, is really critical to making sure that our most vulnerable are getting housed. But also we need more opportunities for, safe and secure shelter for folks while they're waiting for housing. The wait lists right now are, up to 10 years for many folks, and there's a lot of real fear going to shelters. As Leslie said, we've had clients who have been denied access to shelter. We've had clients who've refused to go because they're scared of being assaulted or mistreated. When you come home from incarceration, the trauma is really intense and something that a lot of people don't like to talk about, and it is virtually impossible to address that when you're in a congregate setting or when you're on the street. And for, my colleague Morgan over at Black and Pink will talk a bit more about the experience of being an incarcerated queer person. But really briefly, there is particularly unique challenges of, sexual violence, of separation, of forced solitary confinement for, quote, protection. And if you're coming to a congregate or street living situation, there's just no way to adequately heal. So, we need opportunities for specific housing for those who are reentering that also is trauma-informed and understands the specific needs of LGBTQ folks in order to ensure positive outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Morgan?
Yeah, thank you so much to the rest of the panel. It was exciting to hear a little bit more about your work and just a lot of the overlapping issues. So yeah, thank you so much to the counselors, especially Counselor Lara, for creating the opportunity to discuss this issue today. My name is Morgan Benson. I'm not Michael Cox. Unfortunately, Michael is sick, and so I'm going to be doing my impression of what he would have shared. So Black and Pink has been around in some form since 2005. It was started by a formerly incarcerated queer person who basically had a bunch of pen pals still on the inside and wanted to maintain those connections. And so he started hosting some letter writing parties with his friends where he would cook them food just to get people to help write letters because, piggybacking off of what Riley was sharing, prison and other incarceration facilities are incredibly homophobic and transphobic environments. And, the importance of the community connection that Black and Pink, that's always been sort of a core component of Black and Pink. Over the last year to 2 years, we started doing more reentry and policy work. And so the reentry work is what I'll be talking a little bit about today. So we do bail support, court support. We have a housing program where we would provide up to $1,000 for folks upon reentry, just to put them up usually for about a month in a sober house or another transitional facility. And so I'll just speak to just the demand that we get from our members for that support. So we did an inside survey of our members in 2020, and more than half said that they would either be homeless or were unsure of their housing plans upon release from incarceration. So this is all of our LGBTQ members and those living with HIV who are currently incarcerated across Massachusetts. Only one member said that they plan to have their own apartment. Others would be living with family or friends or relying on community support like sober homes or residential programs. And then when asked what type of support they expected to need upon reentry, almost 3/4 said that they would need support with housing from BNP, with Suffolk County being the main place that folks are coming back to. We also, I should mention, we opened a house, so it's a little impromptu, sorry, but the other main component of the work that we started was that we opened a house for formerly incarcerated trans folks. And it's a beautiful space. I wish Aaron, there's only 4 members of the team, 2 of them are sick today. Aaron runs the house. It's a beautiful space. It only has places for 4 beds plus 1 emergency bed, and we haven't publicized it really at all, but we've already gotten 15 applications and would really love to have provided those folks with the space that we hope to create for everyone who wants it. But we also receive about 20 requests for our housing support program every month since April, and we have not been able to fill that for the past few months. And so just to share that information to speak to the tremendous need that our members have, some of the solutions that we're hoping for are more support for, like Riley was saying, places that folks can come home to and be in a loving community. That is not the sober homes and transitional houses that we take them to now. At best, what I hear back is, okay, it's not too bad, and I want so much more for our members. So there need to be LGBTQ specific, inclusive, led, and beautifully run places. We also, because I recognize that that's probably not a possibility for everyone in the immediate term, I echo the Massachusetts Commission on LGBTQ youth recommendation that that basic LGBTQ competency training is provided to all state employees and contractors, and I hope that's done by LGBTQ folks, particularly people of color. I think that that's everything I mentioned. I wanted to mention, you also mentioned the recent attack on the folks in Colorado Springs. We recently just had Transgender Day of Remembrance, and we've had other instances of white supremacists, particularly targeting LGBTQ events in Boston. And I just want to echo what I shared at also the LGBTQ public safety hearing, is just that, you know, what we understand from systems of oppression is that it is the material conditions that created the ideologies that permeate our systems today. And until there's a chart that we can show that says this is how many more LGBTQ folks are unhoused than cis and straight folks, that's going to create the conditions for this violence to persist. And so that's my goal, that we have all of these beautiful places until those material conditions, and I understand these things feed into each other, but that's what I'm asking for of the council, is that we get that chart leveled out. This was impromptu, but yeah, thanks so much for your time today.
I appreciate you had specific asks, many of you. Thank you, and we will be going to virtual now. Gretchen Van Ness has joined us. Welcome, Gretchen.
Thank you so much.
How are you?
Good. Thank you, Chair Murphy. Thank you, councilors, for having this hearing today. It's so good to be among friends and family as we recover from the horrible attack on our community, Colorado Springs. So I'm Gretchen Van Ness, she, her. I'm Executive Director of LGBTQ Senior Housing here in Boston. We're creating the Pride, which is Boston's first LGBTQ welcoming, affordable senior housing community. And we are so happy to share whatever we can about our journey creating this first ever welcoming, affordable senior community with all of you as we address all of the issues for our community, especially for young adults and young people who need the safety and family that we are creating, we hope, at the Pride and going forward. So we know that there's a humongous need for affordable senior housing that's welcoming to the LGBTQ community. Our LGBTQ elders grew up in a time when there was no protection against discrimination, when we were condemned by all major institutions in society, when we lost friends and lovers and community because of the AIDS pandemic. These are the people upon whose shoulders we stand today, who have helped create the world where there are anti-discrimination laws, where we have a right to marry, where we are still finding and fighting for living safely and aging in place safely and in fabulous communities. We were able to create the Pride because of a long community investment in finding community support, finding a neighborhood and a building that would accommodate our housing. We were able to put together a typical affordable housing development package of funding that includes state and federal affordable housing dollars, historic preservation money, Community Preservation Act dollars, and private funds. We can't be an exclusive community. The fair housing laws prevent us from requiring anyone to be in our community, to be a member of our community. So we can't ask if folks are members of the LGBTQ community when they apply, and the apartments will be awarded through the fair housing lottery based on folks' income and their age. And we know that that presents a real challenge to create the kind of safe, welcoming, and fabulous communities that LGBTQ people of all ages need and want. So we have very deliberately chosen a very gay name for our project to make sure that we welcome everyone who is LGBTQ community and our allies and friends who want to live in such a community. We've also learned through our many-year process of talking with community members and hearing from people across the country that the need that elders have for LGBTQ welcoming and safe housing exists as well for our young people. And it's heartbreaking that any young person is facing homelessness, rejection by their family or community, and can't find a welcoming and safe place to live. We are working very hard to look at multi-generational models going forward to see what we can do to provide affordable housing as well. And we look forward to working with all of you to continue to be leaders and pilot every single kind of program we can to address this overwhelming need. We are firm believers in housing first, and we also are firm believers that cities have a particular obligation and responsibility in this area. It's in cities where we can create family and community much more easily than in other places around the country. And so Boston needs to take a leadership role. You are all doing that with this hearing today. We look forward to working with you to continue this work. I can't think of a more important thing to be doing at this moment, and I can't think of better partners. And thank you for including us today.
Awesome. Thank you, Gretchen. And I hope you can stay on because we will be going to councilor questions now.
I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So with that, thank you all. We will now go, before we go to the administrative panel, if any of my colleagues will go in order here, if have any questions or comments. Councilor Lara.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for your presentation. I think one thing that has become very obvious is that there's a need. One of the conversations that we're always having here on the council is how do we continue to bring the people who are farthest out in the margins to the center? And for however bad youth and young adult homelessness is, for however bad mass incarceration is, for however bad the inaccessible senior housing is, you've shared with us information and data that makes it very clear that it is exacerbated for people who are queer and trans in the city of Boston, and particularly people who are formerly incarcerated. So I guess one of the questions that I have, and this is for Connor, you had a conversation around placements. And do you find that placements in transitional housing and shelters for LGBTQ youth is often tied to employment? Is that always the case?
No, it's not always the case. I would say it's most often the case. Even if it's not a condition, it becomes an inherent requirement down the line, because one of like the best things we've done as a city is our rapid rehousing program, where you've sort of got this progressive engagement strategy where you're paying more rent over time. Mm-hmm. You might have free rent for, say, 3 months, but then you're starting to pay a percentage of your income, and it's going up and up. And so ultimately, no form of housing is fully sustainable without stable income and without financial security. So even if you won't get kicked out of the housing because you lack a job, in many instances you'll lose it because you can't end up affording it once you start to have to pay. So at break time, we really see the issue of young adult homelessness as one of economic opportunity, as one of workforce development, because all these amazing housing initiatives we have will never be sustained if we're not also investing in that entry point into the workforce and that foundation of financial security.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're always saying that the best housing intervention is to pay people so that they can afford to live. So definitely understand. And it sounds like your organization is doing a lot of investment in really changing the material conditions for these young people to make it so that they can be sustained throughout when being placed in housing. Have you seen any particular model of either transitional housing and shelters? I know that you work with Bridge Over Troubled Waters and those organizations that have worked exceptionally well for LGBTQ young people.
Yeah, well, I'll say a couple of things here. So in terms of emergency shelter, because of the lack of availability of transitional housing or permanent stable housing, we still need emergency shelter, and we have a shortage of emergency shelter. In the city of Boston, there's only about 60 youth-specific emergency beds, and that actually is including Y2Y, which is technically in Cambridge, but serves Boston youth. So it's a very low number, and the reason why it's important that we have youth-specific beds in addition to just general emergency shelter is because for transgender youth, as an example, 50% of them, 50% half, report instances of violence, abuse, sexual assault in congregate living facilities, either mostly by other residents, but sometimes also by staff. And so for LGBTQ plus youth in particular, the need for safe youth-specific shelter is so important. I saw that when working at Y2Y. I worked there after it opened, and just the open affirming community that existed there was, it inspired me to come out as a young person, and I wasn't even staying there. And so I think it's important that we continue to invest in youth-specific shelter beds. But in the absence of those beds, I think it's really important we invest in funding for what I call temporary alternative shelter. What that means is Airbnb or a hotel bed. So at break time, we have an emergency fund. We call it our Break Time Community Fund that we're launching. Honestly, if someone's on a shelter wait list for 2 weeks, just to pay for them to have a hotel bed, shelter bed. We've started to partner with hotels here in the city who have, offered us lower rates and been partners. We really need ways for when there isn't a long-term solution to be able to bridge the gap. And I think temporary alternative shelter funding is the way to do it. If we can just house someone in a hotel for 2 weeks while they wait for a bed or they wait for their next housing opportunity, that can make all the difference in terms of their long-term trajectory. Because during the 2 weeks they're unhoused, they probably don't feel safe or comfortable going to an adult shelter because of all the things that I mentioned. And so ultimately, they're going to end up on the street. Or they're going to end up on a friend's couch or staying with someone who's not safe. And so the things that can happen in those 2 weeks are absolutely devastating to that person's physical and mental health, to their long-term trajectory. And so if we can find a way for the city to fund short-term, sort of temporary alternative shelter when there isn't a youth-specific shelter bed available, that's how we get people into housing in the first term. In terms of those longer-term housing options, rapid rehousing and transitional housing are both awesome. Definitely should continue to expand those.
Thank you so much. Leslie, when we had a conversation, you talked about your work, the work that you do at Justice for Housing, and you have an incredible success rate. Can you walk me beginning to end in terms of someone who's coming out of incarceration, the work and they come to your organization, what that looks like?
Sure. Justice for Housing has an emergency down payment assistance program where we provide that first down payment or back rent payment for individuals who are returning to the community. We find that providing, piggybacking off what I said, is that to have that first initial resource to get into housing your first month or your first 2 months provides stability so that you can find a trajectory you want to go in. From there, we have a stable housing reintegration program where we provide subsidy vouchers for individuals who have been impacted by incarceration or justice involved. We have 0% recidivism rate. Some of the things that we see from that.
You have a 0% recidivism rate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of the things
that,
that we see from that is family reunification. As we know, DCF and foster care, one of the requirements for family reunification is stable housing. And 60% of the individuals who are incarcerated, their children end up in DCF care. Without stable housing, these children will age out of foster care. In addition to family reunification, we've noticed that credit has been a barrier as well. So our program is 18-month program that provides stable housing with wraparound services like mental health, substance abuse, financial literacy, and our goal is to provide home ownership opportunity at the end of the 18 months. We provide first-time home buyers program and opportunity to purchase your home so that the wealth can be generated through your children. In addition to that, we are creating new homeowners, right, that are formerly incarcerated so that they can become landlords, right? And that barrier is not there anymore because formerly incarcerated people will house other formerly incarcerated individuals. So that is our goal, is to break this systemic issue as far as housing and barriers to stable housing. I also want to highlight that we hear from our constituents that their children are excelling once we house them. And I disagree. I think that you need stable housing first before you can even focus on a job, right? You can't, our constituents say that it's impossible for them to keep a job or sustain a job if they're homeless. So I think stable housing is first, and then employment will come afterwards.
Thank you. Madam Chair, do I have time for one more question? Or was that my time? That was the bumper.
That was your time, but we'll come around for a second.
Beautiful. Okay.
Thank you. Councilor Louis-Jean? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and I also just want to thank again everyone for sharing your expertise with us to help us really think about how we are more supportive, and also our budget cycle it all starts very soon. It starts in the new coming year, and these conversations will help inform our dollars and how we spend them, especially, Connor, when you were talking about Success Link and the need for it to be, more supportive for the program that you're doing in year round. I guess, Connor, I'd like to talk a little bit more, if you could expand on what those conversations with the city have been like so far, because I remember this being an issue that you brought up. So if you could talk about sort of what the pain points are and what we as a city council can do in the budget cycle to really advocate.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I think the biggest challenge is the amount of funding per youth. So for the summer jobs, the amount of funding is approximately, not exactly, but approximately $2,500, which for us, taking a young person through our whole program, including the alumni work, costs about $12,500. That's 1/200th of the cost of long-term chronic homelessness. It's not even comparable. But the $2,500, while it has an impact, is only 1/5 of the total cost we're incurring. And I think the challenge is that the Success Link program, having been designed around summer job placements, for it being converted to a year-round model, that per youth funding needs to be increased. We think it needs to be increased to at least $10,000 per young person. We're also advocating for this on the state level with the broader YouthWorks program, and we've got in the state program ARPA dollars to support that. So I think really what needs to happen is that we have to, fully expand Success Link to a year-round program. We need to allocate at least $10,000 per youth to year-round job opportunities for young adults, ages 18 to 25. And I think that the main challenge with getting the funding spent last year, from what I've heard, was mainly just staffing issues and just sort of, we're all city departments, nonprofits, private employers alike, all struggling with staffing. And so I think it was a staffing issue. So there might be a need to invest dollars in sort of staff administration. For DYEE, I'm not sure. I think we'd have to sort of engage their department directly on that. But from our perspective at break time, the biggest thing is just making sure that per youth funding goes up so that we can actually invest in wraparound supports, actually create opportunities that lift people out of homelessness versus sort of doing it halfway or a fifth of the way and not actually making much of a difference at all.
Thank you, Connor, and I thank you for that insight. That will be really informative as we think about the investments that we need to make. Morgan, you had mentioned, I think you were citing the commission, the LGBTQ plus commission, the need for there to be more training and sensitivity in whether it's youth shelters or general shelters about the population-specific need. In an ideal world, we'd have shelters where folks have just safe spaces where you know that you're gonna be welcomed and feel comfortable because it is an LGBTQ plus friendly space, whether it's like, Gretchen was talking about Pride and how that's LGBTQ plus friendly housing. I'd love to see us get there on like the shelter model. Short of that, what does that training actually look like? And do we know like at what rate it's being used, who's doing it? Because I'd want to help advocate for that to be expanded so that, and like honestly, every vulnerable group that's been historically excluded probably needs that sort of sensitivity training so that when you are in shelter placement, you're not made to feel even further marginalized or downtrodden, right? And so I'd love to hear a little bit more about that training if you have any more info.
Yeah, absolutely. If Mike were here, this is one sort of set of experiences that he could speak to a lot more. He has a lot of experience also trying to support trans women being placed in various facilities and just being openly discriminated against, not being able to go to a male facility or a women's facility, and having to sort of beat down the door, call the whoever you have in your phone. Yeah. So that is definitely something that is tremendously difficult, and also difficult to know that it is apparently something that our members are still experiencing the need for. And I agree, just sort of on a range of issues that relate to the systemic biases that we have. From what I hear, it's mainly around staff having been maybe trained or been introduced to the need to be sort of like do sort of bystander intervention, but not doing that. And I know there are some training resources that exist that are specific to shelters, but from my experience at Black and Pink, what I know of that has happened is just that Mike calls a bunch of places and tries to maybe threaten them, maybe try to follow up as much as we can. Again, also really short-staffed and don't have sort of like a LGBT sensitivity training department, but doing that sort of ad hoc when something not great happens, unfortunately, is what I've seen so far. And I agree, something around just sort of like bystander intervention.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad also that the administration is here because I think this is an area where they can really help lean in and with the new office. So I appreciate that insight, and it gives us something to think about. And lastly, Leslie, I just want to say that like the way that you intervene and really help to support folks who otherwise wouldn't be is really phenomenal. And so that's why I've always been inspired by the work that you're doing at Justice for Housing. I think it would be good to give folks a specific example of how your intervention in a particular matter, whether it's someone who is facing eviction or in public housing, like how your intervention really changes the game, and why it's something that we need to continue to support.
Yeah. From our hands-on defense program and our SHARP program, percentage of our participants have been released from probation early because of the tremendous progress they have achieved in our program. 88% of them have engaged in mental health and substance abuse. It's $4,000 to house one individual in our program versus $167,000 a year in the DOC. Our program provides the wraparound services along with case management, where we stabilize and goal set, right, for individuals. As far as our hands-on defense program, we have been 98% successful in reversing denials of housing. That means that individuals who receive a denial after waiting on a shelter list for 5, 6, 7 years for subsidized or Section 8 housing, their query comes up, then they're denied. We have been successful in changing that letter that says we need mitigating factors. Riley here assists them, advocates for them in their appeal hearings, along with our community members and our peer leaders meaning our constituents also facilitate those hearings. Our success rate has been so successful that we have housing attorneys, Boston Medical Center, Father Bill's, GBLS, Harvard law students inquiring how to use the model because they haven't had the success rate that we have had in reversing denials for individuals who have queries. So our goal is to educate those organizations, but we need the resources, right? We need resources to facilitate that education. We can house 100 people right now if we had the proper funding. We have not received any city funding in our organization at all. So if we could had resources, right now we have 40 vouchers, we could have 100 vouchers and fill 100 beds. And this is permanent housing. This isn't rapid rehousing. This is forever housing. So the impact that we will have on our community by providing stable housing for impacted people with zero recidivism rate will lower the recidivism rate. Parole officers are calling us, probation officers are calling us, DOC, DOJ are all calling us to house their probationers. We just don't have the resources to do that. So if we had more funding, we could house more people.
Thank you. And I want to thank. Sorry, I want to thank everyone for the answers. Riley.
Sorry, I just wanted to add, because, I'm the hands-on defense person. So right now, the hands-on defense program is me. and a couple interns, and that is still the success rate that we're having. I'm working with 16 clients right now who are either being denied housing, are getting their voucher terminated for a charge, not even a conviction, because of an interaction with police, or are at risk of eviction right now. And I'm not a lawyer, so I can't actually represent anyone in court, so I have to try and help them out because we don't have a right to counsel in Massachusetts for housing court, which is another issue. And I think just the one thing I really wanted to uplift in all that is we are incredibly successful once we bring to these housing authorities the lived experiences and have them have to tell someone to their face, like, I don't think you deserve housing. No one wants to do that. But we would be much more successful if, one, the policies changed, and two, we had more people to help those. And I think just the one tiny last thing is just that with eviction specifically, or any loss of housing, the impact is much more significant for folks who are formerly incarcerated, and especially, again, those that are at the intersection of multiple forms of marginalization, because getting housing in the first place, if you're formerly incarcerated, is a nightmare. Losing it could mean never getting it again. So I just wanted to add that. And
just wanted to say thanks for those answers. Agree, right to counsel. As an attorney who's worked in housing court, it's a mess, so right to counsel is necessary. And just thankful for all of your comments. Thankful to the administration. I'm going to have to leave, but I will continue to listen and uplift and support the work that's being done here on the council, and work in partnership with Leslie and all of you, because I think you all are really wonderful. And I'm sorry that everything is so hard all the time, but we're going to work together on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Mejia.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you all for bringing so much wisdom, right? Because the real work is being done by people who are living the realities and or doing the work. And oftentimes, that's just not how we move, right? So we need to take our direction and leadership from those who know what's up. And clearly, based on your presentations today, we know that you do. I'm going to start off with Connor. In 2021, I believe it was, our office worked alongside you and your team to create a new line item in the budget that had never existed before, and that was for workforce development for young adults 19 to 24. And we were incredibly like, oh my God, we were able to create a line item for this. And at the time, there was $300,000 set aside. But because of also with the ARPA funding, they increased it to $800,000. So just want to say thank you for your advocacy and your insight to know that this was a population that we needed to pay attention to, specifically around LGBTQ and young people who are aging out of foster care and DYS, right? It is unfortunate, given the transitions that we've had with administrations, during that time, we haven't done our due diligence to really fully execute that vision. But again, remaining hopeful, right, that this is a really great opportunity for us to do some intervention around how some of those dollars are going to get earmarked for some of the efforts that you're talking about specifically. So for those who are tuning in from the administration, know that some of those dollars need to be earmarked for the work that we did in 2021. So just putting it out there. Secondly, it's like, I owe you, let's pay up, right? Give it up. Second, because we continue to be in partnership with your organization, we also realize that we need to stabilize young people, right? You can't get a job unless you have housing. You can't get housing unless you have a job. We have to look at this conversation as the whole child and be able to look at policies that are going to lean into that. So this year, I don't know what the dollar amount is. We still have yet to hear, and I'm hoping that those who are tuning in will provide some insight. But there was some dollars earmarked for housing stipends for young adults, 19 to 24-year-olds. And I'm still waiting for what the number looks like. But as we continue to move through this process, we have to look at these two things in the intersection of both collectively. So to that, if you could provide some insight to what a package deal would look like to ensure that we are advocating in round 3 for something that is a little bit more robust? What would that look like, Connor?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Councilor Mejia, to you and your office for advocating for that line item, and I'm excited to work together to make sure the dollars actually get out there. In terms of your question, you're so right. We need to think about the issue of young adult homelessness as a workforce development issue, as an economic opportunity issue. And so I think from my perspective, a package deal in terms of using ARPA dollars and general funds to support young people actually escaping homelessness looks like this. I think we need to invest both into programs like Break Time that are providing workforce development opportunities specifically to young adults experiencing homelessness, and into, as I mentioned previously, the temporary alternative shelter funding, which is really meant to get young people into the housing system in the first place as they're on wait lists. In terms of the break time funding, the broader workforce funding, I think it's really imperative that we find ways to, think about resources going towards ending this issue as going to all these pieces, everything that needs to happen to get someone out of homelessness. So Break Time's advocating for $500,000 to support the work we're doing there. And then equally, I think a $500,000 investment in temporary alternative shelter could be a great way to empower young people, particularly LGBTQ plus young people, with some sort of bridge housing, hotel bed, Airbnb, as they're waiting on a youth-specific bed. Because again, that's the time in which they're at the highest risk. Leslie is so right. You can't maintain employment. It's almost impossible to maintain employment without stable housing. We have a lot of young people who have to, take a break from our program because they don't have housing for 2 weeks. And so we've just started taking general funds from our budget and paying for a hotel bed because it's the only way they're going to sustain housing. And knowing that we have a shortage of shelter beds for youth, knowing we have a shortage of housing overall, if we can use city funds to provide that, to bridge that gap as we work towards longer term solutions, I think that's the perfect use of ARPA dollars. So again, $500,000 for break time and $500,000 for those temporary alternative shelter funds.
And so in regards to ARPA funding, I know that there's, we've allocated, we've already fought, there's been dollars that have been earmarked. So I'm curious from an operating budget standpoint, because that's what we're going to be fighting for next year. And I think that sometimes when we can build longevity and sustainability, we're not going to have to just rely on hopes and prayers that we're going to get another windfall. So if we were looking at this as from a line item perspective, something that we would advocate for, it sounds like you might be able to provide some input in terms of what is more sustainable and that we can do long-term investments. So manage in all of our expectations, what would that look like? Aside from ARPA, like let's just act like we don't have that anymore, right? Let's just think about long-term investments that would be a permanent line item. Would it still be $500,000 in each category for the operating budget? Is there a minimum? Is there a baseline that just could get you up and running? The only reason why I ask is because, there's a lot of need, and I want to make sure that we are setting ourselves up for success. So when I start working with Quincy on trying to chase those dollars for both housing and youth workforce development, those two things working collaboratively, then we have other policies that we are pursuing. So you have to pick and choose, right? But I want to choose. This is one of the investments that our office has been pounding the pavement since we've came into this place. So what would be kind of like I wouldn't say the bare minimum because we have to ask for more, but hope and pray that we get. Like, I want something that's respectable, right? That is going to set you up for success on a long-term path. What does that look like?
Yeah, so for break time and for what we need, with $500,000, we would be investing that in our Stable Orbit program, which is our alumni programming. It costs about $2,000 per person, so it'd serve about 250 young people. I think any investment through ARPA or general funds would be incredibly impactful, because as we're rolling out this program, we're also working with government agencies on the local, state, and federal level to find ways to fund it longer term through different pre-existing government funding channels. For the temporary alternative shelter funding, the $500,000 would support about 100 young people, is our estimate. Happy to send along a proposal for what that looks like. We think that's a critical sort of pilot size to really test this out and understand, how this works. If those resources aren't available, I think we can make it work with a smaller pilot size. But the reason why we're advocating for this is really, I think, in partnership with the Office of Housing and Office of LGBTQ plus advancement, finding ways to make sure that we don't leave people high and out to dry when they're on shelter wait lists, and make sure that we have resources committed to it. And it's something that that the Office of Housing has done great things to start to address. And so I think through a conversation between the Office of Housing and the City Council and Break Time, we can figure out a way, with whatever resources are available, to make that work. Having it funded through general funds would be preferred, because we'd love to build it up longer term.
That's right.
But wherever the money can come from, we'll take it.
Thank you, Chair. Do I have time for one more question, please?
One more, yes.
Thank you. It's a question and a comment. So our office has been working with Tree Life, which is an organization that supports young people who are aging out of foster care. And it's a housing initiative. Right now that it's in Northampton, they're trying to bring it here to Boston. And I think that that's also another partner that you all should look into for housing. And then I did have a question for Leslie. Before I was a city councilor, I used to work with young people and parents, and one of the initiatives that we partnered up with was the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department with an initiative called the Family Matters Program. Are you familiar? Yeah. We worked with Homes for Little Wanderers and other organizations to ensure that our incarcerated loved ones, when they came home, that they were well received and that they were set up for success. And I'm curious, as you look within that model, the Family Matters, are there specific programming that you are running or are interested in expanding upon to help support our incarcerated loved ones, our young people, LGBTQ plus communities?
Yes. We already house individuals 18 to 24. We house that population already. But our mothers and our parents and fathers, we have single fathers too. We're looking to expand our SHARP program. $1 million, we need $1 million to run the program efficiently and to be able to house up to 100 people a year. The thing I want to say about our program is the permanency of it, and rapid rehousing and shelters. Yes, we do need short-term fixes, but ultimately the community is looking for something where they can call a home, right, and not have to worry about being housed 18 months later or the money running out, right? So this is a sustainable program, right? That is an answer to individuals who are impacted or system involved. It is the first of its kind in Massachusetts and the 6th in the country. We were just invited to the White House because of our policies that we were able to overturn and enable justice-involved individuals to be housed in public housing. We just brought home 2 lifers off of parole. So because of the policies we created and enacted and worked with the Boston Housing Authorities, and I have to lift them up right now, they have been very supportive of our programs and are willing to work with our community. where before they had caused a lot of harm, but they are doing something about it. So I can say that if we had the resources to expand our SHARP program, we would be able to make a significant impact in our community.
Thank you, Mia. Thank you. So, Council Lara, you had one more question before we move on to the other thing? Sure.
We do work with DCF. We work with DCF. They welcome our housing because they do not have any housing for mothers, right? Who are coming home and they don't have any permanent housing, where that is a problem for them to receive their children. So we prioritize mothers and children coming out of DCF because of family unification.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. And so I have a question for Black and Pink and then for Gretchen, because I really wanna lean on this Pride model. I mean, first of all, I'm incredibly inspired by all of the work that everybody here is doing. I think that, Chastity's not here, but with the Trans Emergency Fund and with Justice for Housing, how many houses do we have, these kind of grassroots houses that exist in the city right now? Is it just those two, or are there more? There's one more? New Beginnings Reentry. Oh, La Red, you're right, yes, thank you. And so I'm just, there's a need, and unfortunately we have not been meeting that need, and you have taken care of yourselves and your people and the community that you're building and the support that you're giving people, and just the success rate of the work that you're doing is incredibly inspiring. And I just want to say thank you for bringing our people home and giving them homes to live in. One of the things that we know is that we can't really actually create an effective solution to an issue if we don't know the extent of the problem. And you've shared a lot of information, and I know that that's data that you get from the people that already come from to your organizations. And so what information do we have about data specifically about queer young people who are homeless, about queer and LGBTQ people who are incarcerated, about the need for LGBTQ seniors? So do we have any data that helps us create a baseline for the need for these communities? And so we're talking about LGBTQ young people, we're talking about folks who are coming out from incarceration and senior LGBTQ housing. At least that's what's represented here today. So what data do we have?
We have data. We have a interim report that we created. Our program is being evaluated as it goes. So we do have an interim report that we could share with you with some of the numbers and specifics around some of the questions you have.
So for example, we have Suffolk County, we have South Bay, and then we have Nashua Street. What data do we have from the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department that outlines the need for either queer folks who are incarcerated and what's happening in there, and people who are incarcerated who need housing and when they come out?
I could tell you this, getting data from any correctional institute is non-existent and will not, it has not happened. We have been advocating, we have been yelling from the rooftops that we need the data from them. And they do not listen to us, they don't listen to legislators. I don't know who can get the sheriffs to provide the data that is needed for us to do our work, for you to do your work. They're the least transparent agency, and nobody holds them accountable. So I can say that data exists, but they're not giving it.
Thank you. And I saw Riley and Morgan light up, so please.
Yeah, I'll just say there was a bill that was passed as part of the Criminal Justice Reform Act in 2018 to collect data on LGBTQ folks that are incarcerated. That data is not being collected. We know that they have. So as part of the intake process at a facility, you are screened for PREA, which is the law that is ostensibly aimed to decrease sexual violence while inside. There is some data that's collected around that related to whether you are or are perceived to be LGBTQ, but like Leslie said, we can't get it.
When you say perceived, people are not self-identifying?
You can self-identify, but I believe the way that question is administered, it's sort of either way, and there's obviously challenges with self-identification when often the person that you're identifying to may be a correctional officer and not a medical professional or something like that.
Thank you, Ryan.
I was just going to add that I was chuckling because when we were prepping out here, Morgan and I were talking and we were both like, yeah, we can find a lot of statistics about formerly incarcerated, or the intersection between incarceration and homelessness, the intersection between queerness and homelessness and youth and homelessness. Not very much for all three at once. But I do want to uplift, Black and Pink was part of a report back, I think in 2018, that's called Coming Out of Concrete Closets, which did talk about, what being queer behind the wall. And then the Fenway Institute did a comprehensive study as well that looked at kind of the barriers for folks, I think predominantly coming home, who are LGBTQ identified. So there is like some research, but it's very piecemeal. It takes a lot of work to get, and it's not accurate because also a lot of people, again, don't feel safe self-identifying, or otherwise, there's a lot of barriers to actually coming forward, and then a lot of correctional officers don't want to take the data because they don't want to be held accountable for the things that are happening back there. So I'll pause there.
And Connor, in your experience, does DCF collect data on young people who are in DCF who are houseless and are also queer?
I do not know for DCF because we're not contracted with DCF right now. We're working to do that. We're contracted with DYS. One thing I'll say about data on young adults experiencing homelessness is that the most cited and used counts for young people experiencing homelessness are probably the point-in-time count that happens every year in the third week of January. It's mandated by the federal government, by HUD. But it's a vast undercount because you're literally counting the number of people that volunteers see on the street or that shelters report are in their shelters on one night out of the entire year. It does not include people who are couch surfing. It does not include people, as Councilor Murphy had mentioned, it does not include people who are in transitional housing or in other situations that are sometimes defined by different government agencies as homeless. So the data that we use, that we look to, is a 2018 report from Chapin Hall at the University of Chicago that says that 1 in 10 young people nationally experience some form of homelessness each and every year. That's over 4 million young people. But if you look at the federal numbers that happen through the point-in-time count, in orders of magnitude different. So one thing that Break Time is exploring is how both in the city of Boston and the state of Massachusetts can we replicate what was done on a national level with those counts and do it here. They did it through basically through phone calls. But yeah, there's so many things that I could share about the data that we just don't know.
There's a data gap around queer folks generally.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you. I just don't want to take any more time, and I have one last question for Gretchen. Gretchen, there's nonprofit organizations here. There's people who are also nonprofit organizations but are doing more grassroots community building, kind of like placemaking work around housing. And I think that the Pride is a really solid model into what it can look like when, community organizers, city come together to make something happen. And so can you talk to me a little bit about the Pride model and your process to getting there and how you think that can be recreated for some of these other subsections of the queer community in Boston?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Counselor. We really went about creating the Pride and creating and doing our outreach as if it were a political campaign. So our early task force members that founded our nonprofit started visiting City Hall, talked to the mayor then, talked to city councilors, and we also knew once we had identified the former Barton Rogers School in Hyde Park as a potential home for the Pride, that we needed to reach out to the community here in Hyde Park. So we did a lot of work to talk to neighbors. We knocked on doors. We went to events. We went to neighborhood association and crime watch meetings and asked people about how they thought about creating, changing and transforming the former Barton Rogers School into affordable LGBTQ welcoming senior housing. We didn't go into the community with a plan. With everything all set and decided before we started talking with folks in the community. Really how the Pride ended up taking shape was with community input, which is why we have, which is very unusual for affordable housing, we'll have a large public community center. We'll have a home for the 54th Regiment that is a historic reenactors group here in Hyde Park that has never had a permanent home, which is why we're raising money for making sure our programming and services will also be available virtually to address the isolation of LGBTQ elders across the Commonwealth and across the country. So this is a sort of a community organizing model that we're happy to talk about with anyone here. And we developed that kind of support among our elected officials and city agencies because we started asking questions and found out from the community what folks want and for this building to be. And it's quite amazing. I have a lot of nonprofit experience. I've served on boards and done work for nonprofits before joining as executive director with LGBTQ senior housing. And everyone who's on our board is a former community organizer and social justice worker in some way. And it really makes a difference in terms of how we approach problem solving and how we are creating community as we go forward.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Gretchen. Thank you, panelists. I hope you can stay if you can while we have the administration come down and join us. I appreciate all of you and look forward to this conversation continuing. So yes, if we could have, Juliana, you going to join Quincy or if you guys, please join Bia Marrera. Yeah, Bia, sorry. Marrera, yes, come on down. I know we are, as a council, trying to make sure that when the administration comes, they also hear from the community. So thank you for being willing to go second. We appreciate that. We're hoping that becomes the norm going forward because we do believe that the community panelists sheds a great light that we want you to hear directly. So thank you for being patient. And thank you for being here. I know that you have slide decks. We also know that we prefer the conversation, but please refer to them if you want. We can go through and then have the open conversation. So would you like to start from the Mayor's Office of Housing? Or would you like Quincy to start? What you guys can decide between each other, yeah.
Thank you. I'll start. You don't have to show my slides because I over-prepared for this, but
I love it.
so we'll just talk.
You look beautiful. You and Julian, I love the page, and that you have 2 new positions coming on board soon. I'd like to see that. It's growing.
We'll talk about that as well.
Awesome. Thank
so,
you.
good morning. My name is Quincy J. Roberts Sr. I am the inaugural executive director for the Mayor's Office of LGBTQ plus advancement. And my pronouns are he, him, and his. So before I get started and go any further, it's Transgender Awareness Month, and I just want to bring into this space those that we have lost and those that cannot be here today to advocate for themselves because they are out surviving. My heart and mind are with our brothers and sisters in Colorado Springs and all those who have been triggered by this and affected by this tragedy. I want to thank Boston City Council, Council President Flynn, who I've worked with for over 7 years on this work and beyond. We want to thank the Committee on Public Health, Homelessness, and Recovery. Special shout out and thank you to Committee Chair, Councilor Murphy, Councilor Laura, Councilor Mejia, Councilor Anderson, and last but certainly not least, Councilor Lujian, for your continued support before you were elected and during. I really appreciate that. I really, really mean that. So, as everyone knows, we are the newest kids on the block. We were announced June 1st. I started July 1st, hitting the ground running. So we are a very, very new department. So please bear with us. We have expanded to a small but mighty team of 2, recently onboarding my Chief of Staff, who's to my left, Julianne Doherty Lee. So we are excited to have her. However, we are only a staff of 2. So we're currently, and right now as we speak, we are in the final round of hiring 2 community relations specialists. These 2 positions will be our representatives, our boots on the grounds, grassroots, when it comes to community engagement and resources referrals, along with developing relationships and trust in community partners with our stakeholders, continuing what we have already done in the last 4 months, and ensuring a current pulse on issues like LGBT homelessness that impacts the entire LGBT community. A lot of our friends have spoken today who we work with, including Bagley, including Break Time, Connor and Break Time. So we get a lot of our information from those individuals. As you have heard today, all the work is connected. But as of a part of a collective goal to ending chronic youth homelessness, especially LGBT homelessness, we want to highlight what our office is doing and will be doing this fiscal year with the budget that was provided. The number one thing that's relevant to this is the mayor's annual LGBTQ plus Youth Summit. This coming May, in partnership with Bagley, JRI Boston Glass, and the Massachusetts Commission on LGBT Youth Commission, we will be holding a holistic approach to youth services in hosting this first LGBT Youth Summit, which will take place May 20th and May 21st. Second, we want to mention something that this council, this very council, has blessed us with. I'm not the religious person, but I do call it a blessing. By increasing our budget, we were able to provide mini grants that will launch in the next 2 weeks. We are calling it the Beyond Pride Mini Grants. Thanks, Councilor Laura. And these grants, as we heard today from different testimonials, that you cannot have sustainable housing without employment and vice versa. So I think this, I know these mini grants is a way for us to give a little, to just highlight what's already being done in the community and amplify those. So again, those will, we'll start taking submissions in the next 2 weeks for those mini grants. And last but not least, I know Councilor Lujian had to leave, but she talked about culturally competent training. That is number 3 that will be our deliverables for this fiscal year. We are launching the pilot January 3rd, and we have 15 different departments that have volunteered to take this culturally competent training to better serve our LGBTQ plus community, specifically the most marginalized, Black and brown, trans women. I'm almost done. I think.
Take your time.
So this office, we're charged with creating a better Boston for all and the advancement of Boston's LGBTQ plus residents. The experiences, the stories that we have heard today, and the challenges that our community continue to face help drive and shape the policies and community-oriented programs and resources that we would love to bring in future fiscal years. We need your help to make this reality. So I will yield the rest of my time to my colleague, Bia, because she has all the data, and this is the expert that we rely on for a lot of the work that we will be doing. So I thank you again for the council, especially the two councilors sitting in front of me, for bringing this to the forefront.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you always for showing up and being here,
Thank you.
both of you. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Bia Moreira, she, her, ella pronouns with the Mayor's Office of Housing, Supportive Housing Division. I'm the Associate Deputy Director for Supportive Housing. So I'll talk about Rising to the Challenge, which is our plan to end and prevent youth and young adult homelessness. I'll try to go as fast as I can because I know we have limited time, but at the end there is a bit more focus on LGBTQ, specifically youth and young adults. But for the beginning, I'll talk just general youth and young adult homelessness. This is just some background. The plan was launched in 2019. It was developed in 2017-18. It included 240 community members working in different working groups and 110 public and private organizations. The plan is public, it's very comprehensive, and it has a number of objectives and goals, and the implementation team is going goal by goal. We don't have a lot of wiggle room. We sort of go through what was created in the plan. And here's some progress. So since the plan was launched in 2019, a lot of the numbers that are refer back to is from 2019 to now, to see sort of the progress. So the first one is the point in time count that Connor mentioned. This is just 1 day in time, so it's not everyone who experienced homelessness, but the benefit of the point in time count is that it's done the same way every year and every time of the year. So it's not necessarily meant to show how many people experience homelessness, but it's a steady data number. I mean, we don't have a lot of that sometimes in homelessness, so it's just a good number to refer back to, even though we know that more than 157 people experience homelessness on a given night. In Boston, it's still a good number to refer to. So in 2019, the point in time count was 157, and 2022 this year was 87, and that's a 44% decrease. So the number is pretty accurate in terms of people in the shelter system, because we are required by HUD, and then plus the people going outside and finding people who are unsheltered. And since 2019, we've housed 536 young people through supportive housing. Those are a combination of rapid housing, which is supportive housing, and permanent supportive housing, which is more long-term housing. And it's a combination of our youth dedicated programs that are only eligible for people who are 18 to 24, and our mainstream programs, because some young adults don't want to go to the youth dedicated programs, or sometimes those are filled. So there's a combination of all of our supportive housing programs that are funded through the Mayor's Office of Housing. And this also combines people who are attempting or fled domestic violence. So it's people experiencing homelessness and people fleeing violence, domestic violence. The vast majority of the work that the Mayor's Office of Housing has done for Rising to the Challenge is add housing opportunities, youth-dedicated housing opportunities. So before the plan was created in 2017, 2018, we only had 40 youth-dedicated programs. Now we have 317, so it's a huge change. And that, I think, goes to the point in time count. It's just, we sort of flooded the system with youth-dedicated opportunities. And the addition of those youth-dedicated opportunities is very important in the system because a lot of the prioritization is based on length of homelessness, and young adults don't have as many days homeless, so a lot of times they can't access the mainstream resources, so have specific resources dedicated to them is very important. Which goes to like sort of the last bullet. We expanded access and pathways to housing, made sure that people at the Boston Public School System had access to those housing opportunities, that people at the youth shelters had access, and young people at adult shelters as well. So the way that it's in the slides is divided by the strategies in the plan, but I'll just talk about sort of the first few slides is just access to housing, increasing access points, ensuring young people knew where to go, and that housing was accessible for everyone. And then I'll talk a little bit more about the actual housing opportunities. As a lot of people mentioned, youth and adult homelessness, there's a lot of focus on people who are double up or couch surfing. even more than sort of mainstream or general homelessness. And that has been brought up many times to my office. And we've funded specific programs for that population because our federal programs, usually we can't use those federal dollars for people who are doubled up on couch surfing. So the first one I'm highlighting is the Youth Flex Fund, which is a flexible pool of funds to pay for one-time housing costs. It's up to $4,000, and young people can use every fiscal year. And it's very, very flexible. As long as you can connect the cost to housing, it can be paid for. So if a young adult, for example, drives to work and their car broke down, and if they lose their job, they're going to lose housing. The program could pay for the fixing the car so they can, continue to drive and continue to pay rent. So it's very flexible. Then the second program that I'm highlighting is the Youth Liaison that was added to our 2 major adult shelters that are run by the Boston Public Health Commission. So that would be 112 Southampton and Woods Mullen. Even though shelters, a lot of people talk about young people don't go to adult shelters, our data shows that they do go. So we want to make sure that the people who go have the resources they need, are connected to our youth dedicated resources, and can be potentially transferred to a youth shelter when appropriate. These youth liaisons sees every single young adult who enters those 2 mainstream shelters. They refer them to mental health resources and other resources, and ensure that they have pathways to housing. Because a lot of times the young people at adult shelters are just 1 out of 100 people with nobody who has youth dedicated opportunities for them. Then we have a youth peer housing navigation program. They're located in 2 sort of spaces. One is a mobile one that touches all the other adult shelters that are not Boston Public Health Commission, so Pine Street Inn, Boston Rescue Mission, Rose's Place, etc. And then we have a youth housing navigator at Boston Public School as well. And those navigators so peer is because they have lived experience, and they connect them to everything. Our focus is housing, but they can connect them to mental health and other resources as well. For BPS, I just want to highlight the navigator. We launched that program in 2020, and through 2020, through 2021, talking to the organization that runs that program, Justice Resource Institute, we realized that yes, you need housing navigation, you need people who are embedded in a BPS, but navigation is not enough. There was very, very little actual dollars for housing in that program. It's mainly navigation. So we added a lot of rental assistance and created a rapid rehousing program dedicated to BPS students. And it's the only rapid rehousing program that we have that people who are doubled up on couch surfing are eligible for. So that's a unique program. Okay. So I was talking a lot about how to access the opportunities, and these are the opportunities that I was talking about. So 277 new youth-dedicated housing opportunities. Rapid housing, I think we already talked about, but it's a short to medium-term program. It's usually 2 years. It can be 3 years on a case-by-case basis. It can be extended to 3 years. And it comes with rental assistance, flexible funds for supportive services like transportation, food, just general supportive services, and case management advocacy. Then there's permanent supportive housing, which is ongoing rental assistance, comes with case management, flexible funds for supportive services, but it's seen sort of deeper services because it's longer term. So the requirement is 18 to 24 experiencing homelessness and also have a disabling condition. Rapid housing, just 18 to 24 experiencing homelessness. We've launched an employment and savings incentive program for people who are in rapid housing because it's a progressive engagement model, and we were seeing that people weren't paying rent, or increasing their payments. So this program, every extra dollar that someone pays towards rent goes to a savings account, and it's a 12-month program. It's a pilot program, and they can accumulate up to $12,000, I think. And we want to see if that incentive will increase their payments toward rent. And once they graduate, they take those funds, and we don't have any restrictions on how they can spend it or use it. They can either get a check or get access to the savings account. Sorry, I'm talking a lot. Hopefully not too fast.
No, it's good, thank you.
So this is some data that I gathered for this. This is for calendar year 2022, so it's not full 12 months, but it was up to like last week, I think, when I took it. So in 2022, 478 individual young people experiencing homelessness in Boston. That doesn't include families, they're just individuals. And so I just thought to bring some data. So you can see the gender is pretty divided evenly. The average age of someone experiencing homelessness is 21. It disproportionately impacts Black young people and Latinx when you consider like the population of Boston. And 44% of young people experiencing homelessness in Boston have a disabling condition on record. So you can imagine that the percentage is probably higher. That's the percentage we can get. And then the two main adult youth shelters that we have in Boston collect LGBTQ data that it's not collected in the mainstream shelters. So I asked them to provide some data as well. Liberty Village, which is a shelter in Mission Hill run by the Home for Little Wonders, 27% of their young people that they have in their shelter identify as LGBTQ. And Bridge of Troubled Waters, which is downtown, had 37 young people identify as LGBTQ and 11 as trans or gender non-binary. And then the last thing, we know that homelessness doesn't impact everyone evenly, that Black Latinx are disproportionately impacted by homelessness, and LGBTQ people are disproportionately impacted by homelessness. So through our supportive services program, we try to have culturally appropriate and affirming services. We partner with organizations that serve them specifically, and we've also launched anonymous surveys that get to that question. So we have a survey that all the young adults who are in the programs can fill out that will ask questions like, I feel like the program staff represent my culture, identity, and background. We plan on using the data from those surveys to go to the individual agencies, because it's divided by the individual agencies, and do continuous call of improvement with them. If one agency, for example, seems to be doing services that is less appropriate. And we also partner with the Office of Human Services, which is an implementation partner for the Rising to the Challenge, in providing trainings for all the staff in the shelters and also the ones doing the housing work around positive youth development, substance use, and trauma-informed care. And that's it.
Thank you. That was very informative. Thank you. I am always hopeful, but happy to hear this panel and the panel before talking a lot about workforce development, and not just financial support, but financial literacy, and I heard that again. And also heard a lot about flexible. It came up a few times, and it's flexible to me in this case, and in many cases it's reasonable, right? That there's rules, but then we have exceptions to rules because we have unique populations, we have unique needs, and in this case I do feel, and that's why this hearing was called, with the lens to be specific on the LGBTQ plus community, is there are unique needs. So when it comes to programming and others, we have to be mindful of that. And thank you for highlighting the programs. Was thinking about the BPS program. I know the school voucher program, and we've been increasing that. But when you mentioned like fleeing domestic violence, we know that youth, usually it's right, the 18 to 24 age, but school-age children under 18 who may feel that they've been isolated or need to leave their family because of violence, or just don't feel safe living there. Is there a different program, or can they take advantage of the BPS housing voucher if they're not a family, if they're just a child? Like how, if you have any information on that, that would be helpful.
Yeah, so people under 18 are a little bit difficult for us because all of our programs, you when you move in, you're a tenant. Mm-hmm. All the mayors of housing programs, right. It's all rental assistance, and if you are not emancipated, you can't sign your own lease. There are some safe they call National Safe Place and Bridge Over Troubled Waters is one that they do have emergency shelter for people who are under 18. So that's normally where we go to. The Navigator, who is located at BPS, they will receive referrals for everybody, but they won't necessarily add them to their caseload. They will sort of do the transfer to the safe places. Except when like they're 17, almost 18, they work with them because we know that like you're gonna turn 18 soon, and they can start even doing housing search before. But 16, 15 is very hard for us, and there's also the question of like DCF and BPS, the people who work at BPS not knowing how if they're mandated reporters. So there's that tension as well. Like, do I refer to the housing program or to the DCF?
Yeah. No, I appreciate that there is communication, though, that we're not just, Councilor Lara.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the administration for giving us these updates on the Rise to the Challenge project and the work that the Mayor's Office of Housing and the Office of LGBTQ plus Advancement is doing. I have a couple of things. In the vein of BPS, is there only one youth liaison or is there one in every school?
There are homeless liaisons in every school that are not funded by the Mayor's Office of Housing. That's funded by the Mayor's Office of Housing is just one.
So the Mayor's Office of Housing funds one central to BPS that works with the liaisons that are already at the schools.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering that. And so, Director Roberts, the training that you were mentioning that you were giving to city departments, it's voluntary.
For now.
Okay, thank you. I'm hoping that it's going to be moved towards being a requirement and maybe voluntary for the quasi-governmental agencies, which I don't know that we can tell what to do, but, I think that in this day and age, it's a requirement, baseline requirement to have that. And I'm curious about the shelter system. So Woods Mullen and remind me of the other one.
Southampton?
Yeah, the Southampton and the Woods Mullen shelters. One of the issues that we hear from community members, particularly for queer folks who are trying to get into the shelter system, is that they're being mistreated when they're trying to come to the shelters. What information, what training do the people who run the shelters have, and what specific, the reality is that the best would be that this is being led by queer folks and you have people that are there and people are having their, their own space and so on. And so talk to me a little bit about what information you have about what's happening at the shelters that are ran by the city of Boston when it comes to LGBTQ people coming into the shelters.
I can speak partially because Boston Public Health Commission would be the lead on that, but through the Rising to the Challenge, the Office of Human Services does have trainings that we want to make sure that sort of the youth homelessness field gets. So they would be doing trainings with Boston Public Health Commission staff and other staff at Pine Street Inn and other major shelters. I know that the shelters do have their own trainings, but I can't speak. I could ask them and get back to you. Boston Public Health Commission would be able to speak on the trainings that they do internally, but I know that they exist. Because we don't run shelters, I can't speak as much.
Yeah. So I'll make sure, and through the chair, to make that official request, because I would love to, what the entry process is, what the intake process is for queer folks who show up to the shelters, I think is incredibly important, because we also want to see if people come in, how many people are coming in, how long are they staying, if they're leaving, why they left, right? And so thinking about intake and outtake for the shelters, because we can't actually see the problem if we don't have, to be fair, we know what the problem is. We have queer and trans folks who come to us and tell us what the problems are. But in terms of the city of Boston, right, we want to make sure that we have salient information that shows that there's a problem, as we often do, because, we need those stories. So I think that the update that I wanted from the Rise to the Challenge, particularly around LGBTQ youth, I think that this is a really encouraging update in terms of the work that you're doing. I when I was a young person, I was housing insecure, and Bridge Over Troubled Waters was the place because I was underage. I was 17, I wasn't 18. And ended up couch surfing because there were no beds at Bridge Over Troubled Waters, and because I was underage, there wasn't access to anything else, right? And so this is an issue that's incredibly important for me, and I know that for me as a young Black woman, I knew that I was predisposed even to be impacted by youth homelessness, and I know that that's also true for young people who are queer for all of the reasons that we know. And so what my hope is that we're having and implementing as a city robust interventions that are specific to the unique needs of people who are farthest out in the margins. And so the next question that I have, and it's the last question that I have for the administration, I think is for Director Roberts. Given what you've heard here today, what vision do you have for your office?
And it's what I've heard for the last 2 decades, a lot like Councilor Mejia, Hittrick Martin Institute, alum there, shout out to Hitch Martin, and Harvey Milk High School. So it's what I've heard for the last 2 decades. And the question you asked about what's going on in the shelters, not necessarily city-funded shelters, but shelters in general, it's horror stories. You hear them, I hear them, and the vision I have, especially for the training, now that it's voluntary, I want it to be similar to the real training where it's an executive order. It's mandatory for all 18,000 plus city employees so we can better serve our constituents, and take it a step further because you're giving me ideas as well. Get into those shelters, visit those shelters. And I know the visitation, everybody's going to put their best foot forward when they see us there, but I also want to offer them training before it's a problem. So that's the vision I have with the culturally competent training. But I have a larger vision, I would say in the next 5 years. I want to be able to be a platform for these shelters to come to me before the problems set out. So that's the long story short vision.
Do you anticipate any collaboration between your office and the Office of Returning Citizens?
So I have, well, in my previous work, I was I worked closely with returning citizens, but I know they've been through some transition. So unfortunately, I have yet to introduce myself to it's a new ED over there as well. So I have yet to introduce myself and build that relationship. But yes, to answer your question, yes, because it all intersects. Like I said in the beginning, it's all connected. And I want to highlight a relationship. Councilor Luzianne brought it up, but that relationship that Chief Dillon and myself have with this model of transgender housing, I think it should be, more resources put into that and modeled for other constituent groups within the LGBT community because...
Thank you. If there was a funding mechanism to fund these, because I think we can recreate the wheel. I think the city should build some of it. I think we just had this audit of all the city-owned land, and I think one of my recommendations is going to be that the city consider building LGBTQ specific, kind of like the Pride housing that's intergenerational, that have and that is also targeted to young adults, right? So that it kind of has that, and that kind of city investment is necessary, but also we don't want to recreate the wheel. The truth is that the people who are on the ground, who are most directly impacted by these issues, have already built up effective models. And so if there was a funding mechanism that was coming to the city, to the 3-4 houses and organizations that already exist to help them expand and sustain their organization, how would you imagine that happening? Would you imagine that happening through RFPs, through your office, the Mayor's Office of Housing, collaboration between the two?
All the above. I think as many access to resources is fine. I don't think it necessarily has to come to my office, but I would love to be that platform, that vessel for these things to happen. But I'm a lot like all you, give it directly to the people that's most affected. My office, as far as funding, I think the money for our office should go into personnel because we don't have the people to do the work. It's just Julianne and I. So to answer your question, yes, we would love to have an RFP program, but I think it's a and or. So.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Pierre. I really appreciate it.
And I appreciate the training. I know our office pushed and we did get funding through the public health during the budget season about trauma-informed and mental health training in our offices. It is voluntary, but knowing the calls we get and when we're out on the streets, you know, the people we're working with for our offices and our staff to make sure that, so I'm looking forward to your training too.
And so far, no one has said no, so.
That's wonderful
That's the
to
hope.
hear. Yeah. Councilor Mejia?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And so I just have a few questions, actually more comments, or there might be a question here and there. Let me just start by saying that oftentimes I talk about the work that I've done because sometimes it's hard for people to take you serious just because you know how you show up in this world. But I just want to state that working at Hedrick Martin, at the Harvey Milk School in particular, taught me a lot about what this work is all about and how you show up in this work. And not just as an ally, as a co-conspirator who is amplifying, right? So I'm so glad to hear you're a graduate. What year?
No, I worked.
You worked? Oh, you worked there. What year?
2013 and 14. I was in that transition period of jobs. So, yeah.
I was there from 97 to 2000 and 2000 when I went over to MTV. So those 2.5 years there were very formative.
Absolutely.
After working here in the city of Boston, which, you know, Boston is a little bit slow in a lot of ways, but being in New York and really seeing how intentional and how unapologetic the space was, just was super inspiring, which is, I give them the biggest shout out whenever I can. And they've done some amazing work. And we should really look at that model and replicate it here in the city of Boston and let it be on steroids here, because there's a lot of work to do. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the the Flex Fund. I know I talked about in 2021, our office, 2022, this past budget cycle, we fought for housing stipends for 19 to 24-year-olds, and I have yet to hear how those dollars were disseminated. Would you happen to know if any of those dollars that ended up within the budget for this particular program?
No, because the Youth Flex Fund started before that, I think, so it's not...
They didn't add any? I'm just trying to see if they added any more dollars to support that.
I think, no, not that I know. I would have to ask the budget folks at Mayor's Office of Housing. But the Youth Flex Fund, I think there is the need for...
increase.
The Youth Flex Fund, I think, is as is right now, is appropriately funded. We actually decreased because it wasn't being used as much. I think there's the need for a separate stipend. The Youth Flex Fund, because I think the stipend would pay people directly, and the Youth Flex Fund it pays sort of a landlord, or it doesn't give money to young people directly, which I think is different. But I would have to ask my office and come back.
I'm just curious about, when you fight for dollars, you just never know where they end up, right? So I just want to make sure that the money that we're fighting for is ending up in the right places and spaces. There's been 3 different administrations since, we've been at this. So I'm curious around the employment opportunities for career young folk. I worked at Goodwill many years ago with women who were transitioning out of DTA and helping them find jobs. And what I found in that space is that they just wanted women to just get a job and that's it. There wasn't really no intentionality about what workforce development was really all about. So I threw away the training manual that they gave me and I redesigned my own. And that was in 2012, and I'm so happy to say that most of the women that graduated from my program are still employed. And they had an initiative that was specifically around developing opportunities for women to look beyond the job scope of finding Target or Dunkin' Donuts. I wanted to focus on making sure that they had careers. And there is an initiative called the HELP program at Goodwill that focuses on human resources And I'm curious what, if any, opportunities exist, or what are you all pursuing for creating a pipeline to create the next generation of Quincy's, right, that are going to show up here in the city of Boston and run all of these departments. So can you talk to me a little bit about pipeline and
Absolutely.
vision?
I'm excited to answer this question because I'm in the trenches right now with the hiring process. We're not going to talk about the amount of budget because you all know what I'm working with. However, I was very creative with that budget. Yes, we're bringing on 2 community relations specialists, but we carved out some of the money that you all allowed us to have to do youth fellowships. I don't like calling people interns, so because that's a part of the development. Like when you say internships is usually a free gig, and this money attached to this, $9,000 to be exact. And what we're looking for is specifically LGBT youth fellows to, one, take the helm of the summit, because Quincy's it's not going to be Quincy's show for this LGBT youth summit. It's the youth show. So we have 2 positions open for that, to help and mentor these individuals, because it's a 4-month program for $3,000 a month or something like that. Yeah, something like $3,000 a month. And then the last opportunity with what we have is a youth policy fellow, because we're trying to get, well, not trying, we will get young folks involved into this process, because everyone who knows me best, I'm a policy-driven person. Everything that we talk about should be driven through policy. So I really want to invest, as Councilor Mejia said, I want to invest in the next Quincy, the next Corey, the next Jonathans, the next Jeans, the next Juliannes, and I think that's the way we can do it right now with the money that we have. Future, because I know Councilor Laura's thinking about this, the future plan is to have more money so I can empower more young people. Because I want to be intentional about the people we're hiring. If you look at the job description from the community relations aspect, it clearly says you have to either have lived experience, trans experience, black and brown, or you have to at least work in that field for at least 5 years, because we want to make sure that we, going back to what all the counselors are saying, the people who are affected most by these problems. So I hope I answered your question,
Yes,
Counselor.
you did.
That's
you did.
what we have for right now with the budget that has been provided.
For now, right?
For now.
Because that level of intentionality is really important in thinking of like building pipelines, creating workforce development opportunities, wrapping around that with supports around housing. Like these are the sort of conversations that make the most sense.
Absolutely. And I'll just end with, I think, well, I keep saying I think, I know that the LGBT Youth Summit will give that holistic approach for other young folks, and it may not give them a job immediately, but it will give them the tools to thrive holistically. So I'm really excited about this Youth Summit. It's only a day, but it's in partnership with what Bagley's already doing, what JRI is already doing, what Boston Glass is already doing, what Youth on Fire is already doing. It's just to amplify their work and provide free, I don't know where the TV is or the camera, but free workshops for all LGBTQ plus youth. So
That's awesome. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
I have one more question. The alarm
Go
hasn't.
ahead.
Yeah. So you mentioned an executive order, and I would like for you to consider something that gets codified into law, right? Because I think that if we, encourage people, that's a nice polite way of saying it would be great.
Yeah.
Then we mandate them, and then there's a level of accountability. So I really do believe that the training that you've created and are hoping to implement should be something that is through ordinance, that it gets codified into law, that no matter who's the administrator, who's the head honcho in charge, that is something that gets implemented and upheld. No matter who steps in and out of this administration, because what I have seen is that when folks do executive orders, people can undo them with new administrations, and the only way we're really going to be able to, keep things and we can continue to update and amend ordinances as the time needs. But I do appreciate the executive order thinking, but I do believe that there's an opportunity to lean in, and I'm sure Councilor Lara, if you haven't, and I'm sure you probably will, lead, because I'm all about like making sure that people who are doing that work and leading that work continue to lead that work. I'm just making recommendations. I'm not saying that I'm going to lead it or write it, because I don't want people to get crazy about some, well, you know. But I do think that there needs to be something that gets formalized into something that is codified. And if the lead sponsor of this hearing is willing to entertain something like that, then I'm willing to support and help shepherd it along on the council to make that happen.
Thank you. Whatever it takes to get people to hold themselves accountable, because that's what the training is all about, is holding ourselves accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you. If you would like to stay, we do have public testimony also, so we'd love you to stay. Marie Stowe Cornell, yeah? You can come to this, or either one. I think they're both on, so wherever you feel comfortable. And for public testimony, please make sure you state your name and affiliation, and everyone has 2 minutes, so I will put the timer on. So you can wait a moment until people move so you feel comfortable.
Okay.
Thank you for waiting too.
I'm a member of Black and Pink, Massachusetts, and I'm also being aided by the Defense Program of Justice for Housing. I've also been aided by the ACLU, GLAD, the Red Network, and the Anti-Violence Project of New York City, and several other agencies, including Adult Protective Services and different human rights organizations. My name currently is Marie Cornell, but my birth name was Maria Bernice Mayho. I changed my name with the help of a Boston judge due to constant housing and employment discrimination. I'm now a formerly incarcerated member, falsely arrested and repeatedly victimized by white supremacist Commonwealth law enforcement officers. Some of the police have now been investigated by Internal Affairs and fired as police officers, guilty of multiple violations and criminal offenses, yet they are not in prison. I'm a co-founder of Fusion Magazine, a nationally recognized award-winning LGBTQ-focused student media publication I helped complete while completing 2 undergraduate degrees in magazine journalism and sociology at Kent State University in Ohio. Mandy Jenkins Kate Common and I created Fusion 20 years ago at a public university during a time when the Defense of Marriage Act was passed in Ohio. I'm the great-great-granddaughter of Bernice May Harding, President Warren G. Harding's beloved niece. My journalist ancestor fought against slavery, anti-Semitism, Nazis, and segregation in housing and communities, and was rewarded with the retaliation of the KKK. In a famous 1921 Birmingham speech, Harding declared, "The Negro is entitled to full economic and political rights as an American citizen." I believe Black and brown lives are still harmed in Boston, along with LGBTQ community members, due to religious prejudice, structural inequalities, and because historic segregation remains unchanged from the 1920s. White supremacy is openly thriving in Boston, menacing diversity, reinforcing inequalities, blatantly evident in policing, and enabled through the illegal determinations and actions of the housing authorities. Domestic violence victims have no rights to an attorney. When harmed or raped, yet serial killers or sex offenders have free representation. These racist courts in the Commonwealth, prosecutors with unethical practices, and prejudiced judges still exist, and courts can be used to harm victims unable to hire appropriate representation. I've seen it from both sides as a victim and as an innocent party. It is very difficult in this state to obtain housing as an LGBTQ individual without a criminal background. Now, as my case is pending, my attorney entered a plea of not guilty, and with complication and delays caused by the pandemic, I sat in South Bay. My case has no clear end in sight. I was lucky to have a good representative, an attorney willing to fight and do Zoom calls to make sure I didn't die in jail. To be clear, I have no criminal convictions on my record. However, as a result of my false arrest and due to an open query, I've now lost my housing and now get illegal denials from housing authorities despite no negative housing history. I suffer from severe epilepsy, from police brutality. I'm now deaf in 2 ears. I have partial hearing in the left side from surgeons in New York City. No evictions or drug abuse problems lay in my past. I used to work in City Hall here with Mayor Menino. He gave me awards and said I was a new Bostonian, that I could influence youth and make a difference. Despite my excellent previous work history, accomplishment, awards that stretch into a long curriculum vitae, an outstanding record as an undergraduate professor, and an LGBTQ leader for queer women of color, I was a peaceful community activist. I became homeless and now face employment discrimination as I often work in education with at-risk youth. The district attorney in Salem ridiculously claimed, even though my attorney, Sarah Burgreen, won a 16B hearing in Boston Municipal Court, the judge was unable to find beyond a reasonable doubt that I present any substantial risk of harm to others, and if discharged from a hospital because of the severe police brutality. The DA falsely claimed during a dangerousness hearing that I posed a direct danger to Governor Baker. On July 16, 2021, I was a working journalist, photographing Governor Baker during Salem United's celebration of Negro Election Day, honoring my ancestor. And the founder, Doreen Wade, included my Harriet Tubman Bill, a project that I started in front of the Harriet Tubman statue in Back Bay. Raising millions of dollars and supporting the Democrats, I founded a Black Lives Matter company. This would be my only crime. I stood in Hamilton Hall thinking that the danger was over. I posed no threat to anyone in the Commonwealth, and I'm Buddhist. I spoke on a panel at a peace festival in Plum Village, France, where I usually reside. In 2016, one of the main panel members talking to the largest Buddhist gathering to ever take place on this planet. The person posing the greatest danger to the Commonwealth is Governor Baker. In his attempts to foster inequality, making people guilty until proven innocent, trying to increase the length of a dangerous hearing, and the stay that you'd sit unconvicted yet innocent in jail. In South Bay, I suffered. I was put in solitary confinement, denied the right to call my attorney. Here, I know President Trump has advocated government here, declaring minorities, LGBTQ people, the disabled as myself, journalists, and even honest poll workers out of the protections afforded white supremacists and white Christians, while waging war against the formerly incarcerated, the innocent yet falsely accused, women now targeted by sexual harassment or violently subjected to rape and put in prison for trying to report the perpetrators, now forced in many states, even in cases of incest, subjected to cruelly carry the progeny of unpunished sexual offenders. Now, even in the Commonwealth, we face constant tyranny and deprivation of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, as the Patriot Front and NSC 131 leaders or other hate groups infiltrate our governance and reinforce systemic racism by occupying positions of authority in law enforcement, including the FBI. How many times did I call the FBI? It's countless. State and federal laws are being violated regardless of petitioning for redress in the most humble terms. And petitions are only answered by repeated injury, causing widespread oppression, civil rights violations, and assaulting especially any sense of safety or future security. As a transgender, indigenous two-spirit identifying civil rights activist and new Bostonian, the days of Menino are over. I used to believe in the city. I used to believe in being a Bostonian. This was the city my father said was the greatest in this nation. He believed, as an indigenous tribal East Malaysian, that this was the city where you could trust and be safe in the street and be whoever you wanted. He believed in the American dream, the city of Boston and the Golden Staircase. I have constantly faced police brutality now,
and been violently raped, taken hostage by Patriot Front members of police departments, witnessed even 2 of my white allies at Boston University. Professor Francis O'Connor was murdered, and the Boston police falsely claimed Dr. David Jones' death was accidental. I saw and witnessed 2 Boston police officers chase Dr. David Jones near the JFK stop. I was interviewed by the state police, the Boston University police. He was fleeing danger posed by alleged Patriot Front Boston police officers. We should not, as anti-racist advocates, fear the police or have no freedom to even call 911 or the FBI. Dr. David Jones was murdered for being a founder of the Milton Anti-Racist Coalition Strategy Group. His support of LGBTQ leaders like myself, because I came out as transgender, because of his unparalleled public health research documenting social inequities and racism prevalent in public health in our own city. Locally and in the Mississippi Delta, he revisited stops made by the late Senator Robert Kennedy, supported Obamacare to bring what we had in Massachusetts to the rest of this country. The improper investigation of Jones' homicide and the existence of white supremacy in law enforcement in the Commonwealth. It endangers every hospital, every university, every senator, every journalist willing to tell the truth, every town or individual citizen fighting to protect the rights of immigrants, minorities, or LGBTQ people. Despite calling the FBI to report threats of domestic terrorism, 2 of my friends died in Colorado. Daniel and Derek reporting death threats. I called the FBI warning them that I saw things on social media. I reported being taken hostage multiple times to mandated reporters at MGH. In Massachusetts, mandated reporters, they look at a Section 12, they consider their options. They don't understand that white supremacy has become commonplace. I was held hostage by a Beverly police officer named Courtney Brennan. I had photographs of her saluting Hitler. I now face constant death threats, and now I'm on the edge of homelessness. And if not for Black and Pink, the ACLU, I would be dead on the street, forced to surrender to white supremacists. The violations of privacy, the police beatings, illegal injections of ketamine at the hands of the Southborough police, the comments that Trump would always be president, that even he lost the election, that they were going to storm Congress. I called my friends in the federal government. I used to be assigned to Governor Deval Patrick, Olympia Snowe, Senator John Kerry. I worked in the Capitol, and no one could stop what was coming from the Commonwealth. I warned Diana Presley's office. I worked for the Massachusetts Recreational Consumer Council. I was an international journalist reporting to the World Health Organization. Now I can't even call 911 or the FBI. A member of the Westboro Baptist Church took me hostage in Salem. They claimed just because I identify as transgender and I participated in Black Lives Matter protests with my Black adopted dad standing by his side, that no police would help me, and claimed people like me don't belong in this country. In January 2011, I was attacked by a United States military veteran after getting off a plane from Charles de Gaulle at Boston Logan Airport. I was going to Harvard Square. I used to work at Harvard University and Boston University for BU
Marie,
Today
I'm sorry to
and Boston
interrupt.
University.
Marie, if you could finish up, and if
Yep.
you don't, you could also please give us your testimony, because we
Yes.
could add it to the record, definitely. Thank you.
In this state, I learned as a victim of crime, because the offender was a homeless man when he attacked me, that the justice system doesn't offer solutions to prevent reoffenders from again harming citizens when convicted violent offenders never receive proper rehabilitation or are left destitute after serving their country. I believe even my attacker deserved treatment for his mental illness, drug addictions, and if he had the appropriate community services and supportive housing, perhaps his hatred would not have continued to escalate, leading to my disability and his continued imprisonment. I came to better understand that racism is more than bad people intentionally harming someone else they view as inferior. Dr. David Jones wrote this right before he died.
Thank you, Marie. We are going to go to Zoom testimony. We have Jack Diaz. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jack Diaz. I am a non-binary person who is currently experiencing homelessness. My family was, I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous.
That's okay, take your time.
I had something written. Okay. So I've been considered homeless since I was 18. I lived in an abusive household, and I was mostly couch surfing at that point. So when I went to college, I moved into the dorms, and even so, during breaks and holidays, I would ask the school to let me stay on campus. And then I ended up couch surfing for about 2 years. And due to disability, I have a hard time keeping employment. Around the same time I started staying at the shelter Bridge Over Troubled Waters, I heard about the Break Time organization. And they helped me, like at the time I had just gotten fired from a job. And so when I heard about Break Time, I went and I applied. And the whole process really helped me, like through, even after like the lift off, which is a 3-month job placement, they helped me find a more permanent job that I've been working at for the past couple of months now, I think since August. And I just think that it's really important for there to be a lot more education around like resources that young people can access. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jack. Is Michaela up next? Is Michaela here? Gone. Is Milan here? Milan?
She's not able to speak, but she's going to say.
Okay, she'll send. Awesome. Is Jatia? Milan. Okay. Milan, if you're here, you can go next, please. Or we could go to. Billy, if you're on, could you please? Chatia, okay.
Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning. My name is Jatia Ellis. I'm currently a member of the Black and Pink organization. And I just wanted to kind of address some of the concerns that I'm currently dealing with. So there seems to be a lot of controversy when it comes to DTA and sheltering. Without a child, you technically don't qualify for certain bedding or certain things that you need. Currently in the predicament of working on a way of getting my child back. And the last thing that I'm lacking in that department is housing. I just don't feel like me and my wife are fairly treated and during this process when it comes to housing. Our past housing we was evicted from because we had a neighbor who was very aggressive towards the LGBTQ community and falsified reports, which Quincy Police Department then removed my child from my care because of the falsified report that she made due to her not liking my wife and the way she conducts herself or carry herself. And it's been very traumatical for me. I'm still struggling with housing at the moment. I'm currently homeless. And I just feel like there should be more things that are offered and more consideration when it comes to police of what is actually the truth and what is actually not the truth before there's actually a police report made, because that determination takes a big toll within parents, losing their child to a falsified report, and the whole justice system, I feel as if may not be a proper word to use, maybe rigged. I do also believe that being evicted and having that on your record is hard, especially when we are previously released from incarceration. I don't feel like we have enough support to go into housing because of a Corey background. I've been denied at numerous places. I've been denied for Section 8. I've been denied for just various housing reasons. And I understand that nobody's perfect, but when you are in jail, you do take the time to rehabilitate yourself, to know what is wrong from right. And I do feel as if that housing is very hard for me right now. And I've leaned on as many resources as I can. I have a great team, which is Black and Pink, who stands up for me and they try to advocate for me in best avenues they can. But it is hard to seek housing at the moment. And at this current moment, this has stopped me from being unified with my child, is that I'm being denied housing because of a record. There's not severe situations on my record that is determining that I can't have housing. Nothing I've ever done contributes to a house or at my housing for me not to qualify for housing. And I just wish that everything kind of just would be overlooked differently, kind of like on our side of it. Like I said, I'm currently homeless right now. As you could tell, I'm staying at McDonald's. Trying to just focus on what my next place is to rest my head. A lot is just going on, and I just feel like I hear a lot. I've been sitting here listening to a lot that's been said. I still don't feel like the resources we have are beneficial for me, at least. I hear a lot about sheltering and funding, but most of those shelterings needs a referral, or you have to seek some type of requirements to be accepted in those. And I don't think that's, I do feel like the city should at least maintain something for reincarcerated women, trans, discriminate who you are, how you carry yourself. It should more determine how you're gonna go about your future in a positive way. But that's kind of all I want to say. Sorry for the noise in the background.
Oh, no worries. It was no distraction. Thank you.
No problem.
So I think we are done with public testimony. We could go to closing statements. I would like to say, I hope we keep this in committee. Yes, because I want to continue having hearings, especially after the new year when we're getting closer to budget season, and open up this conversation. But I will turn it over to the lead sponsor for closing statements.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to thank all the folks who are here still with us and everybody who is not for coming here today. This is a really salient issue. I think that in scale, a large city like the city of Boston, there's no reason why we can't fix the problem. There's no reason why we can't invest in fixing the solution. When we look at the few hundred people, at least that are documented to be impacted by the issue of homelessness or are being discriminated against because they're queer or trans. So I'm excited about putting forth some recommendations, and I will continue the conversations with your organizations and with my colleagues on the council as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Councilor Mejia?
I just want to say thank you to everyone who brought their heart and soul into this conversation, right? It's not easy. And as always, we'll just recommit to working in collaboration with those who are living the realities and doing the work so that we can show up for you in ways that is not just about lip service, but it's about delivering, because we're tired of hearing the same old, same old. So encouraged by the energy that is in this council and look forward to supporting the work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. With that being said, docket 0882, the hearing is now over. Thank you.